Now, I've covered the brand Jivago on my channel in the past. I've covered a fragrance for men and a couple for women. Here we have one called Amour. This one is housed in a beautiful red bottle. And of course, this is marketed for men. I think some people might already have an impression of this being kind of a gourmand fragrance by the initial appearance, the aesthetic of it. Nevertheless, I'm going to be telling you all about this fragrance in just a little while, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on Amour by Jivago, I'll tell you about the smell, the notes, comparisons, longevity, so on and so forth. But before I jump into the video, I do want to mention that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and also please give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So this is not a sponsored video, but I am dropping a link down below in the description box. It's not an affiliate link either. I don't make any commission from you using that link, but there is a coupon code that you can redeem if you're interested in checking out this fragrance or pretty much any other fragrance from the brand Jivago. So of course, with a fragrance called Amour, we're expecting this to be on the romantic, sensual side of things, and indeed it is. It's woodsy, it's gourmand, it has that ambery personality. There's musk, oak moss, jasmine, there's sugar cane in here as well, so that's where that gourmand appeal is going to come from. A touch of bergamot in the opening too, but surprisingly I get something kind of boozy from this fragrance. And as soon as I smelled it, I was like, kind of smells like a bourbon or a cognac or a whiskey or something like that. There was something boozy, and it could be maybe some hidden spices in here. You know, a perfumer never reveals all of his or her secrets, so there could very well be some ingredients in here that are not necessarily disclosed in the note pyramid. Nevertheless, I'll tell you all about the smell in just a little while. Let's start things off with a quick look at the presentation first. Now, right in the opening of this fragrance, you are going to get a bit of freshness, but this is not a citrus-forward fragrance. The bergamot in here is just an accent. You're going to get it for maybe 15-20 minutes, and then it's going to dissipate. And it doesn't do much. It doesn't contribute significantly to the olfactive profile. What you're really going to get in the forefront of this fragrance is the sugar cane. So there's an ample bit of sweetness. And I think you look at the bottle and the initial impression is going to be Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. As a matter of fact, jasmine, sugar, oak moss, they share a lot of the same ingredients. But the reality of the situation is that this fragrance stands on its own 2 feet, even though I think both of those fragrances can be worn in the same scenarios or for the same occasions. There is something significantly different about Amour. So here's the thing, when it comes to fragrances like Ariana Grande's Cloud or Baccarat Rouge, there's a heavy dose of ethyl maltol, also ambroxan. So there's a green vibe, I think it's Evernil, which is used in the dry down. There's a lot of ethyl maltol, which kind of gives it like this sugar, cotton candy vibe. And whenever I think of candy floss or cotton candy, I usually equate that with a more youthful, juvenile type of a fragrance. There's an air of maturity here that I really appreciate. So it has that sweetness, and it's a prolonged sweetness. So even though you get it right away, it never goes away. There is a certain linearity that kicks in after about 20 minutes. So after that citrus is gone, you know, the jasmine comes through. It adds this clean nature to the fragrance. It's not an indolic jasmine, so it's not rough and tumble at all. And the oak moss is not overly pronounced. It's not an overly green or verdant fragrance, but you are going to get that musk that kind of joins forces with the jasmine. And I do think there's a touch of ambroxan in here as well. There's a certain freshness and there's a certain longevity that carries the fragrance. But really sitting at the helm of this fragrance is the sweetness in here, which is coming namely from the sugar cane, which is a combination of aroma chemicals, and I think the main one is ethyl maltol. But there's so much else happening in here to take the spotlight away from the sweetness momentarily without yanking it or prying it out of its metaphorical arms. So I think it's sweet, but at the same time, it does sort of retain like this sophisticated, mature, boozy characteristic. And of course, you know, with a lot of these boozy ingredients in perfumes, whether we're talking about cognac or whiskey or whatever, bourbon, we're often talking about a lot of the spices that are used in the fermentation of those spirits. And we're talking about these spices that will put together an accord that gives the smeller or the wearer the impression of a particular boozy ingredient. So that's what I think is happening in here. There's some other ingredients that when they come together, they give the impression of this being a little bit, for me at least, on the boozy side of things, which is something that I really enjoy. So it's green, it's earthy, it's musky, it's sweet, not overly sweet though, and it's a bit more dressed up and a bit more sophisticated and a bit more mature than some of these other heavy ethyl maltyl fragrances on the market. So if you haven't tried this one, definitely try it. I'm happy that I've had the opportunity to share my thoughts on it with you. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I do find that that combination of the sweetness, the oak moss, the jasmine, and some of these other ingredients could warrant a comparison with fragrances like Oula Rouge by Christian Siriano, Cloud by Ariana Grande, Baccarat Rouge 540. So I think this fragrance is in very good company, but it does things differently. So if there were a lineup and I had to smell each one of them individually, I can very easily pick this one out. In terms of the longevity, you're going to get about 8 hours on skin. It is eau de parfum, so it's a little more strongly concentrated than a typical eau de toilette. Projection on this one is actually quite good for the first hour of application, so it never radiated beyond an arm's length, always at an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 6, a skin scent right around hour 8, 7.5 or 8. In terms of the versatility, okay, it's marketed for men. I think it's totally unisex. I think this one is great dressed up. I think this one is good for the colder weather. If sweet fragrances become cloying for you in the hotter weather, I would just probably avoid this one in the summertime, especially if you tend to live in a hot climate. And I think this one would appeal to anybody of any age, unless, of course, we're making a comparison with fragrances like Cloud by Ariana Grande. In that case, I would say Cloud is more for a younger demographic, especially considering the fact that it's significantly sweeter. This is for a slightly older demographic, I'd say. Presentation on this one is really nice as well. The cap clicks into place very securely. The distribution on the atomizer, very strong, very nice. And I love that it has this felt material here on the box. My final verdict on Amour by Jivago is it's awesome. It's like a grown-up Baccarat Rouge 540. I think that's the most simplified way to convey it, but it does things differently. You have to try it for itself, for yourself. Give it its due diligence, and I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with this one. So I am super happy that I have this one in my collection. I'll make it my scent of the day tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it, hit the bell, and also give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me, and it would help the channel and this particular video considerably. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.